Hi there. Today we're here to talk about how to play Tavern Masters, a fun new game by Dann Kriss Games. That'd be me. So, first let's talk about the game. In the game, you're a new tavern owner, as are the other players, and you're trying to stock your tavern during the day with the stuff that your patrons might like, so that at night, when your patrons come around, you'll be able to bring them into your tavern if you have what they want, and keep them there if you have what they like. Tavern Masters is played from 1 to 6 players. Now if you're playing solo mode, like we're going to be today, then you'll want to look at the challenge chart. That can also be used for cooperative play. As you can see on the chart, 5 rounds is tipsy, and 5 rounds is a good basic level to play at. So we're going to choose tipsy for the 5 rounds today. Now, at the beginning of the game, you will start with 3 gold. Now that will be used during your first, what's called day phase, to purchase cards from the tavern deck. The game is divided up into 3 phases: day phase, night phase, and counting the till. That's when you get gold from all of your patrons. You will start the game with 5 cards in your hand, but every day after that, you will be dealt 3 additional cards to add to your hand. Now your hand limit is 5 cards total, but that doesn't come in until the end of the round. From the tavern deck, you'll be getting 2 different types of cards: goods and staff. Goods you purchase, staff you hire. But either way, you're just paying gold. For the goods, you'll have specific types of goods such as drinks, food, and games, and then there might be a few extra various goods that do not have a type. Drinks are the main important type of goods in this game. They are generally how you will play most of your patrons, but we'll get to that in a minute. At the beginning of the game, you will be dealt 5 cards, and it will be a draft pick of cards between all the players. Now, since we're playing solo, there's a slightly different way we'll do that. Again, we'll get to that in just a minute. Once you have your 5 cards, everyone will start their first day phase, where they will buy goods and hire staff from their hands to their tavern. Then will come night phase, when we will draw patrons from the patron deck. The first night will start with 5 patrons, and every round after that will be dealt 3 additional patrons. These will also go to our same hand. And at the end of the round, after we count the till, we'll have to discard down to 5 cards. And that can be any mix we like of tavern cards or patron cards. During the game, as you bring more patrons into your tavern, the patrons pay 1 gold per night. But then they tend to leave if you don't have anything that keeps them there. You play a patron by having the goods or staff they want in your bar, or perhaps a certain type of NPC. NPC stands for non-playable character, and that's any patrons or staff that might come up in the game. NPCs have different types. There are soldiers, thugs, mages, entertainers, and wenches. At the end of each round, during counting the till, we'll each get gold from our patrons, and at the end of any round, when one player has 20 gold or more, the game ends. The player that has the most gold at that point wins. If there's a tie, however, then everyone plays an additional round, even people that weren't tied for first. So they'll get another chance, another shot at winning. To begin, we're going to be doing the solo version of the draft, where I draw 5 cards. In this case, the Dragon's Breath, which is a nice drink, the Honey Mead, which is a nice drink, a Rock Bottom Ale, another nice drink, a Mutton. That allows us to play noble patrons, which we normally can't play unless we have a card that allows us to play them, and another Rock Bottom Ale. In this case, I think I'm going to stick with the Rock Bottom Ale, and I'm going to send the other 4 cards along. In this case, to the discard. Then I'll draw 4 more cards. This is to simulate the 4 cards that would have been passed to me. I got the Guild Fence, who's a staff, the chessboard, the hard cheese, and the aged brandy. Now in this particular case, I'm a big fan of the aged brandy myself, so I tuck that away, and I discard the other 3. Now I'll draw 3 cards to symbolize the 3 cards that would have been passed to me. Here we have the Halfling Jester, the card table, which is a game, the Halfling Jester is an entertainer, and another Rock Bottom Ale. Now since I know I already have an ale that I'm going to be playing, the Halfling Jester can be hired for either 3 gold, which is somewhat pricey, or I can play him for free if I have any ale. So I'm going to take him, because that'll give me a nice entertainer for my tavern. Next, I'll draw 2 cards. The Gnomish Accountant, another staff, and the Elven Wine. Now, if I already had the Elven Wine, I could have played the Gnomish Accountant for free, but I don't in this case. But I will keep the Elven Wine because it's a good card to have. Drinks are very popular. And then I'll draw my last card, a dartboard, which is a game. That's good, because that means I have a game to work with now, too. The main 3 types of drinks are ale, mead, and wine. Things like the aged brandy and the dragon's breath are additional special drinks that have other special abilities. There's also the 3 premium drinks, if you will, of the basic versions. For the rock bottom ale, there's the king's ale. For the honey mead, there's the dwarven mead. And for the apple wine, there's the elven wine. So in this case, I'll start with the rock bottom ale, the aged brandy, the halfling jester, the elven wine, and the dartboard. Now first, I'm going to spend 1 gold to purchase the rock bottom ale. It's a purchase price of 1 gold. I play that up here in my tavern. Now that immediately allows me to play the halfling jester for free, because I can hire him if I have any ale for free. That leaves me 2 gold to spend, and I can either play the aged brandy, which would allow me to play nobles, the elven wine, which would allow me to gain an extra gold if I have any wine patrons in my tavern, or the dartboard, which would allow me to gain 1 extra gold each round if I have any soldiers in my tavern. So I will spend my other 2 gold on the elven wine, because that gives me another base type of drink to serve the patrons. Now I'm going to set these cards aside so I can draw my first patron deck as I begin my night phase. So the first night, each player will be dealt 5 patron cards, and there's no drafting from this point on. It's all straight drawing from the decks. Now I have here a pit fighter. Now he likes wenches and dragon's breath, but he wants wine. Now to play him, I have to have his want, which is the wine. And I do have a wine, so I can play him. However, if I choose to play him, I have to remember that he's not going to stay another night unless somehow I manage to add wenches or a wench or dragon's breath during this turn, which, since I have drawn no wenches and have no dragon's breath, is unlikely. But he'll still be paying his gold. Now, because I didn't play the aged brandy, I cannot play the archmage yet. He is a noble patron, but I cannot play noble patrons right now. But that's okay, because I can choose to keep him in my hand at the end of the round. Here we have a scholar. He also wants wine, so that means we can play him. Now, he likes entertainers, so he's actually going to be staying at the end of this round because I have an entertainer. So I'm going to move the pit fighter down here to remind myself that he's leaving at the end of this round. But the scholar will stay here because he's closer to the stuff, and it reminds me that this line here stays at the end of night. I also got a press ganger, which he wants any wench, so if I had a wench, I could play him, but I don't. And he would allow me to play a staff for free from my hand when I play him. And finally, there's the apprentice mage. He wants mead, and he likes entertainers. But since I don't have any mead, I can't play him. So since we can't play any more of these guys, we're going to go ahead and put them over here in our hand for now. And then we begin the counting the till phase. Now, during counting the till, each patron in our tavern pays us 1 gold. Any noble patrons pay us 2 gold. And then there are a few other things that sometimes will give us additional gold. Like, for instance, we'll count up our gold now. First, get 1 gold from the scholar. 1 gold from the pit fighter. So that's 2 gold. The elven wine allows us to gain 1 gold if we have any wine patrons in our tavern. Now, a patron is based on whatever it is that they are wanting. So a patron who wants wine is a wine patron, whereas a patron who wants any drink is an any drink patron. So as you can see, both of these gentlemen like wine, so that means we have at least 1 wine patron in our tavern. That's an additional gold. Now this here, the halfling jester, we gain an additional gold from each patron who likes entertainers. In this case, the scholar happens to like entertainers. So that's an additional gold, so we get a total of 4 gold. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's going to help us next day phase when we can buy more goods to draw in more patrons. So, end of the round, the pit fighter gets discarded. And And we have to discard down to 5 cards. Although luckily, we're at 5 cards in our hand, so we're all good there. Now we begin our next day phase. We're going to draw 3 additional tavern cards. We have the Elven Barmaid. She's a wench, so that'll be a good person to play if we can manage. Her higher cost is 2 gold, or if we have any cheese, we can play her for free. She allows you to draw an additional patron each night. That's very helpful. The Stinky Cheese is a type of food, and he allows us to play as noble patrons. It's only 2 gold. So that's good too, but we already have the Aged Brandy as well, and that could be very useful. Then we have the Dwarven Bard. He's an entertainer, and he costs 1 gold, or we can play him for free if we have any mead. We don't have any mead right now, but we already have an entertainer too. So, take those, and we take a look at our other 2 goods that we already have in our hand. The Dartboard and the Aged Brandy. Now, I can either play the Aged Brandy, or I could play the Dartboard. Having games would be good if we had anyone that liked games, whereas the Aged Brandy will give us 1 gold each round if we have any noble patrons in our tavern. Now we know we have a noble in here that we want to play, so the Aged Brandy is definitely the choice. We pay the gold, and we play the Aged Brandy. Now I could play the Dartboard as well, and I have 2 gold to do so, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, because I think it's good to go ahead and try and get stocked up as quickly as possible. Different people have different play styles. This is just mine. And just because I made it doesn't mean it's the right one or the best one. It just means that it's one of the ways to go. So now, we draw 3 more patrons that we add to our hand. 1, 2, 3. Now here we have the Wandering Wizard. He's a mage, as you can see from this little purple symbol up in the corner. He wants any entertainer, so we can play him because we have the Halfling Jester. He likes wine, ale, and mead, and pays an additional 1 gold if we have brandy or dragon's breath, which we have brandy, so that'll be very useful. And he likes wine and ale, so he'll stay either way because we have wine and ale. The Village Baker, he likes any drink, so we can play him. However, he doesn't have any likes, so he'll be leaving at the end of the round. He also would allow us to play 1 bread for free from our hand if we had any, but we don't, so we move on. The Guardsman, he wants ale, and he likes wenches. Now, we don't have any wenches at the moment. I could have hired the Elven Barmaid, and that might have been useful, but we had some other things that we ended up doing instead. So I'm actually going to save him for next round so that I can play him at a time when I can actually keep him, because I'm going to hire the Elven Barmaid next round. So then we look at the patrons that we had from last round. The Apprentice Mage, still don't have any mead to play him. The Pressganger, still don't have any wenches to play him. But now we can play the Archmage. And he likes Elven Wine too, so he'll actually stay. That's 2 gold a round. He also allows us to play any mages in our hand. And I happen to have an Apprentice Mage who likes entertainers, so not only can I play the Apprentice Mage now, but I get to keep him because he likes entertainers and I have entertainers. So that'll be all we'll do for that round of night. Now on to counting the till. So we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for our patrons, plus the Wandering Wizard pays an additional 1 if we have any brandy, which we do. So that's 7. We still get the 1 gold from having wine patron, so that's 8. We gain 1 gold from the Aged Brandy if we have any noble patrons in our tavern, so that's 9 gold. And we don't have any soldiers yet, so the dartboard doesn't pay out. However, we do have patrons that like entertainers, and each one pays us 1 gold, so that's 10, 11. So we get 11 gold this round. That was a good round, especially for only our 2nd round. So let's go ahead and get 11 gold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now that's going to let us do pretty much whatever we want with our tavern at this point. Now, we've counted our till. The Village Baker goes away to the discard. So, we end the phase with counting the till. We get our gold. Now it's time to bring it ourselves down to 5 cards, which luckily, it seems we're back at 5 cards. So, that's good. Now on to the next day phase, round 3. We draw 3 more tavern cards. We have the goods trader, costs 3, or have any game to play him. And we have a game, so we can actually play him. He allows us to draw 2 additional tavern cards each round. So that means starting next round, we'll get 5 tavern cards. So we'll put him here with our other staff. Then we have the Elven Barmaid. She costs 2 to hire, or if we had any cheese, we could play her for free. And she's going to allow us to draw an additional patron each night. It's very handy. The more patrons, the more chance of bringing more patrons in. Finally, we have the Dwarven Mead. It's the fancy mead, but since we don't have any mead yet, it'll be very useful to play. So we're going to pay 2 more gold to have mead. And now we have a full complement of all 3 of the base types of drinks: mead, ale, and wine. Now we move back on to our cards from the last few rounds. I remember that we have the stinky cheese here in our hand as well. So if I pay the 2 gold for the stinky cheese, that will allow me to play not 1, but 2 Elven Barmaids, since I have both of them. And since I have the mead, I can go ahead and play the Dwarven Bard Entertainer anyway. That just leaves patrons in my hand, and I'm all out of tavern cards at the moment, so that moves me on to night. Night phase, draw 3 more patron cards. So here we have the Village Baker, and another one of him. We play him here because we have any drink, definitely, but no bread to play for free. Then we have the Gambler. He wants ale, we have ale, so we can play him. He also won't be staying, but he counts as us having games in our tavern for this round while he's in the tavern, because he's gambling with some of the locals. Also, we have a King's Guard. He's a soldier, as you can see by the blue sword symbol. We can play him because he wants ale, but he likes games, so he'll be sticking around. And he pays an additional 1 gold if we have King's Ale, but we don't. Now we look at our 2 patrons from last round. The Press Ganger can be played if we have any wench, so we play him. He won't be staying because he doesn't have any likes, but he would allow us to play 1 staff for free from our hand if we had any staff in our hand, which at the moment I don't because we already got to play them for free. Then we have the Guardsman. Looks like he's another soldier. We've been holding on to him. He wants ale, so we can play him, but he likes wenches, so he'll be sticking around thanks to the Elven Barmaids. Now, since we have the Elven Barmaids, I forgot at the beginning of this night phase to draw my additional 2 patrons. So we'll go ahead and draw those now. We have the Mercenary here who likes games and wants mead, so he's a mead patron that we can play, and he'll stick around because we have a game. Then we have the Master Brewer. He'll come if we have any food, which we have the stinky cheese, which counts as a food. So we'll be able to play him too. Now he doesn't have any likes, so he'll be going away. But he does let us play any 1 drink which costs 2 or less for free from our hand. Although our hand is empty at the moment of any goods. Or patrons, it would seem. And that's the end of night for the 3rd round, so now it's time to count the till. First, we get our gold for each of the patrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then we start looking at our special abilities. If we have any mead patrons, we get an additional gold from the Dwarven Mead. And since the Apprentice Mage wants mead, that means he's a mead patron. So that's an additional 1 gold, so 13. Then we get an additional gold if we have any wine patrons, which we do, so 14. We get additional gold if we have any noble patrons, we do, so 15. Then the Halfling Jester gives us 1 additional gold for each patron that likes entertainers. So there's 2 of those, so that brings us to 17 gold. Then we gain an additional gold from the dartboards if we have any soldiers in our tavern, which we actually have 2, I believe. Yes, indeed, the King's Guard and the Guardsman. But that gives us an additional 1 gold. And that brings us to 18. So we get an additional 18 gold. Now, since that means that we'll be going over 20 at the end of this round, that means that we've already won. And that's only on round 3. But I got a good hand. And that is how you play Tavern Masters. Now, the best thing to do after a good round of Tavern Masters is pick all the cards up, shuffle them, play again. Maybe have a drink in the meantime. But if you're going to drink, be careful. And so that's how you play Tavern Masters. I hope you enjoyed this how to play video. I hope it gives you a better understanding of how to play the game and how much fun it can be. whether you're playing by yourself or whether you're playing with friends. We hope you've had a lot of fun. It's been fun for us. And we hope to see you back here next time on How to Play with Dann Kriss Games. Have a great night.